On this episode of ResiWeek, CEDIA Tech Summits resume, Infocom is encouraging creativity, and Apple's HomeKit. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 229, Miniature Offices.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Draper.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of ResiWeek, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by three of my favorite people. First, we have Joe Whitaker. He is the CEO of Thoughtful Integrations. How are you, sir?
Doing well, living life. Glad to be on the show again.
Thank you for being here. Then we have Amanda Wildman. She's the co-owner of True Media Home and a Michigander. How you doing, Michigan?
I am doing great. Thanks for asking.
Thank you for being here. Then last but certainly not least, we have Seth Johnson. He is a software development manager at Blackwire Design. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you all for being here. We are going to kick off today's show with a story that comes to us from a Residential Tech Today. If you missed it, this came out just a couple of days ago. CEDIA is going to resume their tech summits. These got put on hold back in the early spring, I believe after the Florida run of shows, which hopefully Seth was at, possibly. But they're going to kick these back up this fall, starting in September in Atlanta. Vancouver is going to be a virtual event in late September. Then October in Dallas and Houston, November in Toronto, New Jersey, and New York, and December in Woodland Hills and Irvine, California, to round it out. So the goal is hopefully that by September, this will have lightened up enough to where we can get together and do these regional events. So Joseph, let me start with you, sir. When you see this, when you see the talk of essentially in what, a month and a half, maybe 2 months from now, no, 3 months from now. Yeah, 3 months from now. Sorry. Atlanta is going to have a tech summit. Is this something that might be a little too soon still?
I will be patiently watching to figure that out, actually. I'm up in the air with it, all the time when all the things and the rallies and things that are going on right now. You see people gathering in big groups, and then you wait 14 days or 12 days. You're like, oh, you got 5,000 new cases.
I wonder what happened.
Let's add this up. However, those tech summits, the numbers of attendance aren't at the great mass that we see these big spikes in Corona happening. I mean, we're looking at maybe a max of 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not so big of a deal compared to the other things that are big gatherings of people, which are actually causing, these big spikes. So that, I will say I like that we're kicking things back off. I will be at the one in Dallas, enjoying that. And I mean, for the average integrator like myself and others, I think a lot of us believe that, the small show is the wave of the future. The era of the big show is kind of, that dinosaur is on its way out. So these regional tech summits, I have really started looking forward to. And now I'll get a chance to go see some good friends. So do I think it's too early? I'm not sure. But I'm going to wade in the waters with everybody in Dallas. So
very kind of you.
There you go.
Amanda, when you see this and follow this through, normally I would invite you to the Toronto one, since that will likely be the closest one for you. But I don't know if you want to quarantine when you come across, or self-isolate for 2 weeks until our friendly PM decides to lift that thing. I know I won't be crossing the border. That being said, when you see this, when you hear what Joey said about this might be too soon, might be a little presumptuous to make that play already, what is the backup plan? Is there a backup plan? Can there be a backup plan to doing these live?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, it's good to have a plan going forward that once these things are opened up, we have the opportunity to potentially resume, meet back up. I think everyone is suffering a little bit because we haven't had that contact with our friends and the synergy that you get from having, multiple people together. We're kind of a little bit with this fatigue with being on Zoom calls all day, every day for everything. And it is going to be nice to have an opportunity to see people together again and to kind of get your hands on different things. That being said, I think CEDIA has been really, really good about looking at things cautiously, looking at things carefully. I mean, when they had their first breakout in February in the Florida one, they actually made the decision on that before they were even told kind of that they had to. About the event. So I think that they've been really proactive, making sure that they consult a lot of people about how to take care of it best. Does that mean that first time back together, there's going to maybe be a little bit of inconveniences? For me, going to one of those summits, me, I like to give everybody a big hug, say hi, see all of my friends. Not going to be able to do those kind of things, social distancing. Maybe that means fewer people, can be at the booths or at the tables, maybe having larger space. And I think that they're going to be really responsible in looking at that because nobody wants, anybody to be able to get sick. But I mean, I also think, it's a great opportunity, even if they aren't able to do the face-to-face. I mean, these classes that Mike Maniscalco has been teaching and stuff, on networking have been getting great reviews and great opportunity for training. So I'm excited for people to be able to get to see that, even if it's like the virtual one in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Seth, when you follow this, when you see this, obviously this could have a greater attendance than normally they would expect because Expo is going to be virtual. We just went through Infocom Connected, which was their virtual version of the Infocom show, and it was a good event, but it was definitely significantly different than an in-person event. When you see this, when you see what they're trying to do, if these, for whatever reason, aren't able to go, I'm personally eyeing the Toronto one, knowing that the majority of support staff for this event come in from the US. If they don't lift restrictions, they're not coming in. So if they have to, if we get a second wave, if obviously this is all grander at this point, but if they have to cancel these or do something different, what do they do that has some value? Are people going to want to attend a virtual event in place of these when we've just had CEDIA Expo as a virtual event?
I think for the time being, we all have to really get used to the virtual event. We may not like them as much, but we definitely have to get used to them. I mean, we may be tired of being on Zoom, but that is it's one of those necessary evil things right now. And I think for our industry, we're well placed to take advantage of this. We're introducing more and more commercial and conferencing equipment into our product line at Blackwire, not because we want to have residential dealers going out and bidding on commercial jobs, but we want to have our resi guys be able to put commercial product into the home. You think C-level executives want to have a fuzzy picture and bad audio? No, they want to look really good when they're addressing their employees. And that's something that we're well positioned to sell into in these homes. So I think it's a great opportunity, at least from that side, for us to take advantage of a little bit. As for our own training, man, I'm glad I'm not in the position of being an owner of a company that would, I just can't imagine sending my entire workforce to a little conference, and I could take out the entire company doing that. I remember you guys were just mentioning the one in Florida. Wasn't there? I want to say there was
no
one
break.
person. There was
one
or
guy.
two people, and no guys that had to go on quarantine before the lockdown even happened, and they were stuck at home, not working, not going out and selling and that kind of thing because they were at that event. So it's something. I mean, really have to take a gamble. I would say I'm cautiously optimistic that these events can take place, and with the proper social distancing and masks and that kind of thing, there should be no reason that it's any different from any more risky than going to, say, the grocery store. But I think that it's something that we're going to just have to deal with. These online meetings, I think it's all going online, and we're just going to have to make the best with that for the time being.
Well, let me ask you all this before we shift gears for a minute. As Joey mentioned, I think Toronto last year had the biggest attendance with like 250, and that I believe that was 250 attendees, not including support staff. So let's say round up, go wild and crazy, it's 300 people. I can tell you for certain that the Home Depot I was in on Saturday had more than 300 people in it.
Yep.
Now it's a bigger space and we're not all crowding around and touching the same speaker or playing with a shade. But is there any reason that we shouldn't be able to hold these?
All 300 of those people are going to touch the end cap by the register. So, keep that in mind. If you,
so I shouldn't have licked it.
That's correct. The Home Depot, the Home Depot thing, that's a very good comparison because I was there this weekend as well. I see that kind of thing. But even, the regional event, the thing with the regional event that I keep coming back to is, yes, I will probably wear a mask. Everybody knows I'm big on, personal protection is huge for us. But if you've ever been through a Chinese airport in China, same thing. All right. Everybody's been wearing masks in that airport for a freaking decade. I was shocked the first time I saw it, but now I leave my house and it's kind of that same thing. It's not so much different. It's just a different plan or mindsets. I personally think all of them will have around 200 people. And in my personal perspective, is only 50% will actually be as safe as they really need to be.
That's fantastic.
Putting it out there.
I like it.
I think, Matt, we can watch some of the stuff too coming up. I have a senior this year who graduated this year. So I think watching what some of even these schools and things are doing for graduations, and because they're getting groups of people together. I mean, my daughter's class alone is over 300 students. And so they're limiting, the number of parents that can come and family members. And then they're also going to a larger space and there's going to be certain protocols in place. But I think we're going to be able to learn from those kind of events too, as those events open up this summer, and kind of see what happens. So I think it's going to be really important that we watch, other maybe small events. We aren't going to see those big corporate events, the big expo anymore right now, but we can learn from these like smaller events, graduations and things like that, and learn if people are getting sick right away.
And those events are much more focused. Like you can have a very focused message on these smaller events. And I think that the bigger monies that we're going to, the bigger event shows and everything, those marketing dollars, they didn't disappear. I mean, they probably got saved a little bit for this year because everybody was kind of worried about what was going on, but those marketing dollars are still there. And as soon as these companies figure out they can shift those monies into very targeted, highly specific events for certain people, they're going to do that. And the technology, the quality, all that stuff is going to follow.
Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.